This is a Fox San Antonio news special, The Fracking Boom.
Good evening and welcome to this special on an industry that's creating widespread change across our area. I'm Grace White, and over the next 30 minutes, we're going to break down the hydraulic fracturing industry, commonly referred to as fracking. The technique is being used along the Eagle Ford Shale. It's a stretch of something called high organic carbon that runs underground from San Antonio and goes all the way to the Mexican border. Tonight, we're going to show you how the fracking industry is impacting the small towns and major cities in our area. Over the last 6 months, we've found that the economic boom it's brought in has created some unexpected consequences. The fracking boom is thanks to oil and gas companies using new drilling technology to extract fuel from the ground. It's led to unprecedented expansion in towns from Cotulla to Beeville and Cuero. But at the same time, some are worried fracking could also provide serious health concerns. Take a drive through South Texas, and you'll see the landscape is changing. The cattle now have new neighbors, and they make a lot of noise.
We think that the production of domestic oil and the production of domestic natural gas liquids can lead to a renaissance.
Dozens of oil and gas companies are moving into the Eagle Ford Shale, a region rich in oil and natural gas. Chesapeake Energy has the largest number of rigs. They took us on one outside Cotulla to see how it all works.
Right now what they're doing is just circulating right now. They're sitting there circulating.
This is the rig 4 where all the drilling happens. Right now they've been drilling for about 6 days and they are 6,300 feet underground.
The rocks have been here for millions of years, but advances in technology have allowed producers like Chesapeake and others to come in and really to produce the rock in a new way.
Horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing are now allowing access to oil and gas deposits in shale rock once considered unreachable. After drilling is complete, a separate crew comes in to frack the well. Water, sand, and a mixture of chemicals are pumped underground to create fractures in the rock, releasing the oil and gas. The biggest concern with fracking is protecting groundwater.
We have 5 to 7 layers of steel and cement that prevents the fluids either from production or the fluids from hydraulic fracturing to mingle and to commingle or pollute groundwater.
I don't really believe that we have a good view yet of how this shakes out.
Alyssa Burgeon, director of the Texas Drought Project, says if groundwater is contaminated, the risks are high.
Bone disease, leukemia, Hodgkin's disease, other forms of cancers.
The Texas Railroad Commission says they've had 2 reports of water well contamination in the Eagle Ford Shale. But after state investigators went out, they found both cases were not related to fracking. Burgeon says there are more cases you don't hear about.
There have been many people in Texas who claim that their water's been contaminated. Once they reach a settlement with a company that perhaps may give them a new water supply or might even give them the value of their property, they sign a non-disclosure agreement.
Back on Chesapeake's rig, they say safety is their #1 priority, and they stand by their record.
We've been fracking 1 million times in the history of the technology, and to date we still don't have an incident where fracking has polluted groundwater.
The Texas Railroad Commission implemented a rule that requires oil and gas companies to disclose what chemicals they're using in fracking. But many companies, including Chesapeake, gave that information out already. Still, it's those chemicals that are a cause for concern. Cynthia Lee shows us the video that has some worried that ordinary tap water could have an extraordinary risk.
Gasland is a viral video that shows sink water catching fire when lit with a lighter. The movie's creator claims that fracking or hydraulic drilling is to blame. Texas A&M scientist Susan Stuver says the movie is wrong.
Shale gas fracturing occurs very, very deep under the Earth's surface. We're talking 17,000 feet below the Earth's surface.
Stuver says this is the difference between scientific fact and public perception.
There is no real way that we have seen scientifically where a gas could actually come up from that deep. And if it can, as a scientist, I'd like to know how.
Stuver says because of Gasland, researchers did isotope fingerprinting where the movie was made. Stuver says they proved that the methane came from coal, not shale gas.
This is up in coal country, and it's actually quite common. If you have a water well and you hit a coal seam, you will get methane in your water. and your water will catch fire.
Gasland's creator still stands by their findings and refutes critics in a 39-page report on their website. I'm Cynthia Lee reporting.
Fracking has definitely created an economic boom for our area. In some cases, people have quite literally hit pay dirt. But not everything about the industry is a good thing. Coming up, the way South Texas is experiencing growing pains from fracking and the scandalous side effect that comes with all those jobs. Welcome back to this Fox San Antonio News special on the South Texas fracking boom. The industry's created thousands of high-paying jobs in our area, and that's pumped millions of dollars into the economy, and not all of that money is coming from oil and gas companies. Everywhere you turn, it seems there's something new in South Texas.
The growth is it's exploding in this area.
As oil and gas companies move into the Eagle Ford Shale, so does traffic.
It's been a hassle.
Trailer parks.
We have no houses that are available for rental.
New construction.
A lot of new hotels are coming up.
And jobs.
It's good money. That's where it's at right now, the oil rigs.
There's also another group of people benefiting from the development. They are the ranchers who own the coveted acres the oil companies are leasing.
I had no idea what was laying under this land.
Sandra Groman is the owner of Shining Star Ranch. She says when the oil companies started courting her, it was overwhelming.
I ran from it. I would not return phone calls. I had 20 or 30 phone calls every day.
Now Chesapeake is paying her and a group of mineral owners millions of dollars to drill on their land.
We could be our own OPEC right here in South Texas.
Don Finner leased his land in Karnes County, too.
I paid $7,200 for this place back in 1982, and Conoco gave me a $15,000 lease for it.
There's a number of landowners from here on south that, have gotten just signing bonuses for leases in the millions of dollars.
Mike Wilson says deposits are increasing at his bank in Pearsall. His advice to those getting green:
don't get in a hurry and don't take a lot of risk, but you'd love to see people get money like that, but a lot of people are getting money they've never had before.
I'm not sure what's going to happen when this is all over with.
Finner wonders what will happen to his rural community around Karnes City when the oil companies leave.
Are we going to end up like Giddings and some of the other towns that experience the boom, and you drive by there now and all you see is weeds and vacant buildings?
If you ask Roman, she thinks the boom will outlast her.
You are going to be gone. Your children are going to be gone. I'm definitely going to be gone. And this Eagle Ford is still going to keep going.
Chesapeake will be drilling in this area for 20, 25 years. And we'll have a presence in this area for decades.
We've not began to even scratch the surface of this Eagle Ford Shale.
Numbers from UTSA show that the Eagle Ford Shale supported 12,600 jobs in 2010. Now by 2020, the number of jobs is expected to grow to 68,000. And thousands of jobs mean thousands of people have to get to work. That's led to a potentially dangerous problem. With many pipelines still under construction, oil and gas companies are forced to depend solely on roads like FM 1144 in Karnes County. After trying last year to maintain that road, TxDOT realized it wasn't able to keep up.
When you have that high-speed truck traffic that's overweight, that's kind of top-heavy, and it's going around at 65, 70 miles an hour, conditions just don't warrant that kind of speed in these potholes.
Officials launched a $1.4 million construction project to rebuild that road completely. They're dealing with the problem in other areas too. Roads are not the only problem facing the people of South Texas. Fracking has also created a seedy problem that law enforcement is having a tough time dealing with. At the same time, people living on top of the Eagle Ford Shale worry if this business has put their lives at risk. Coming up, we ask an expert whether fracking has made the entire area a hot zone for nature's fury. Welcome back. Adam Haynes now joining us from Chesapeake Energy to talk a little bit about the Eagle Ford Shale. A lot going down there in South Texas with the oil and gas boom. Adam, first just tell us, what is the word Eagle Ford? A lot of people hear that. They don't know what it means. What does it mean?
The Eagle Ford Shale, it's an exciting term, that's for sure. Technically speaking, it's a hydrocarbon-induced rock formation that stretches from the Rio Grande, from the Mexican border in Webb County, and stretches northeast to Gonzales and Fayette counties. It's about 50 to 60 miles wide, and it underlies about 15 or 20 counties in South Texas. From a non-technical perspective, it is an economic engine. It's an economic development resource that will provide South Texas jobs and security for generations to come.
Talk about some of those jobs. I know a lot of people have been able to go back to work to high-paying jobs because of the oil and gas industry. What kind of jobs has Chesapeake brought now and will continue to bring in years to come?
Sure. There is a jobs boom happening in South Texas today. The industry is, as I said, is active in about 15 or 20 counties in San Antonio and south. Some of those jobs are, obviously we need employees that have CDLs, that's a commercial driver's license, but we also need electricians, we need welders. Chesapeake Energy also needs right-of-way agents. We need title attorneys, we need facility managers, and we need production technicians. As you can see, we need employees in just about every field that's associated with the oil and gas industry. And these aren't just jobs, these are careers. These are jobs that typically provide better than average wages. They provide full fringe benefits. We provide retirement packages, and we provide health insurance for all our employees. In addition to the employees that we hire, we also have contractors that work for us in every field throughout the oil and gas industry. So it does enable the residents of San Antonio and the residents of South Texas to work in an industry that will provide them and their family with futures and a retirement and allow them to stay local here at home.
Now talk about fracking. That's a word we've heard a lot of lately. Some people don't know what it means, but is it safe? I mean, a lot of people are concerned about groundwater contamination, and I know that's something the federal government is studying right now.
Sure. Hydraulic fracturing is part of the completion process that we use to bring every Eagle Ford Shale well online and into production. Hydraulic fracturing is part of the process that is used to complete the well, and it allows the well to come online and produce the oil and gas that's trapped in the rocks. Hydraulic fracturing is a mixture of sand and water and some additives that create a gel that's then injected under high pressure into the target formation that creates micro fissures in the rock, and those micro fissures allow the trapped oil and natural gas and condensate and the natural gas liquids to flow from the rock and then are produced to then be delivered to market, either to a refining process here locally or on the Houston Ship Channel, and then the natural gas is delivered to points either as fuel for electricity generation or other uses in the manufacturing process. Hydraulic fracturing has been performed more than 1.1 million times in the last 60 years across the United States. It is a process that, even though it's established, our scientists and our engineers are working every day to make sure it's a safe and effective process. Today at Chesapeake, we're using better additives, we're using less water, and we're using more advanced completion techniques that enable us to utilize hydraulic fracturing in a safer and more efficient manner. So yes, I think the track record of the industry proves that hydraulic fracturing is a safe process.
Now, a lot of this happens underneath the ground, and we've had some earthquakes here in South Texas over the past 6 months. The U.S. Geological Survey is now looking into that, seeing if there's a link between the oil and gas industry and earthquakes. How do you feel about that?
There is no direct link between the seismic events and increased oil and gas production in the Eagle Ford Shale. Remember, we have about 1.5 million seismic events worldwide on an annual basis, and about 20,000 of those happen in the continental United States each year. You're right, the USGS has studied this issue, and they've studied this issue for about the last 10 years. And currently they're focusing on the industry's use of injection wells as part of our disposal process. And while they continue to study that and continue to review it, they still have not established, there is no established direct cause and effect between oil and gas operations and increased seismic activity. The industry is working not only with the USGS, but also with the Railroad Commission and others to make sure that our practices are safe and our practices use the latest technological and technical aspects for our disposal wells. Our UIC, that's underground injection control wells, have been utilized for about 50 years in the industry. And over the course of that time, the USGS and other governmental entities have only had to investigate a few instances to see if there was a cause and effect between oil and gas disposal operations and increased seismic activity. Again, there has not been a direct link established between those two. And fortunately for Texans, there's no entity better in the United States than the Railroad Commission. They have been regulating underground injection control wells for about 50 years. They were one of the first entities, obviously, because Texas is such a dominant oil and gas producing state, but they were one of the first entities to actually permit and get involved into the authorization of UIC wells. They have a very rigorous control process. They make the operators locate any known geological fault in the area, and they won't allow us to place a disposal well near a geological fault. And they also put restrictions on the amount of material, not only from a volume perspective, but also from a pressure perspective of what we can inject into our underground control wells. And so it's a highly regulated process, as well it should be, so that we can ensure that there is continues to be no direct cause and effect between our operations and seismic activity.
Adam, a lot of people want to know, how long will this oil boom last? How long will companies like Chesapeake Energy be in our area?
It's hard to say. But if you look at just the rules that are in place today and the operational area and the operational acreage that Chesapeake has, we have enough drilling locations to last for the initial phase of our drilling operations. We have enough drilling locations that'll last us for about 22 years. But of course, at that point, drilling doesn't stop. We continue to drill, albeit at a lower rate and at a slower pace, but we'll produce the oil and natural gas and condensate from all of the wells that we drill for decades to come. And so it does provide a good avenue for residents of South Texas to come and work in an industry that's always improving, that is technologically advanced, and that is working to produce Texas energy for Texas consumption. And that's something that residents should be proud of.
Our thanks to Adam Haynes and Chesapeake Energy for sitting down with us. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. The fracking industry has definitely produced a boom for the South Texas economy. It has single-handedly created thousands of jobs for workers in a cutting-edge field. But a law enforcement official we talked to says it's also fueled jobs in the world's oldest profession. Far away from family and friends.
These places were ghost towns, really.
Thousands of oil field workers are moving to South Texas. While the population increases in towns like Carrizo Springs, infrastructure and entertainment are far behind.
Most of the people that are coming to work the oil and gas business are coming by themselves, single guys.
With more people and more housing, there's also another business that's growing: prostitution. It was here in Asherton on a rural road outside of Man Camp. The sheriff himself made an arrest.
She then told me that she needed money and basically told me that she'd do anything for it.
With his badge on, Dimmitt County Sheriff Joel Gonzalez says he couldn't believe the woman went this far.
She did offer, to do sexual favors.
The sheriff believes it was the county's first prostitution arrest ever.
It's all over the world. It was shocking in a small community because everybody knows each other.
Alma Rodriguez knows the woman who was arrested.
There's no money. There's no money, and they think that's the only way out.
But Rodriguez's family is hoping to change that.
This is Templo de Alabanza. And
once a church whose congregation was down to only 3 members. Now Rodriguez is opening their doors, offering a soup kitchen for oilfield workers and counseling for people who fall into crimes like prostitution.
As a community, we're supposed to help them get out of that situation they got themselves into. And the problem is sometimes we don't want to do that.
Dimmitt County commissioners have tried hard to keep sexually oriented businesses out.
We had a lot of citizens that were not happy about that kind of business coming to our community.
After several out-of-towners expressed interest in opening strip clubs, county leaders passed a strict set of guidelines, laying out everything from what constitutes nudity and sexual activity to regulating where they can operate and how they serve alcohol.
Since we drew up the ordinance, we haven't heard any more from people trying to start up that kind of a business.
But while the physical buildings are not there, the business is. Online ads with revealing pictures cater to men in the oil field.
We're seeing, activities going on in man camps, in RV parks that are here now in Carrizo. And we have had reports of people actually calling and saying that, or reporting of women going out there and knocking at doors.
The sheriff's biggest problem is manpower. Before the oil boom, he used grant money to double his force. But now, even with more deputies, he says it's still not enough to keep up with a growing crime like prostitution.
Now that we have the oil boom here, we need more officers. Plain and simple, we need more officers.
The sheriff says he's planning to apply for more grant funding to do special investigations targeting crimes like prostitution. In the meantime, you can bet that this issue is not going away. If you want to learn more about fracking, go to our website. You can watch any of the pieces you've seen here tonight. Just go to foxsanantonio.com and click on Raw News. That concludes this Fox San Antonio News special on the South Texas fracking boom. We hope you have a better understanding of the issue. Thank you for staying with us through the half hour. Maximus Sports is coming up next.